Hello, Explain It All fans. Welcome to Explain It, the podcast with Karolyn Briley today. Are my multifamily creative gal.
Hi.
Our normal host, Cain. She is not here today. She is traveling from Texas on the new RV that our friend Marlon got. But my name is Ingryd Hernandez. We are excited to have Karolyn. I don't know about you, but I've been getting so many multifamily questions lately. So I'm excited to have you on here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me?
Hang on 1 second. You know what? I think it might be me. I was at a conference and I remember I had to actually put my volume. Here we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
My problem was with me, not you. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I just switched to my mic, so I'm like, oh my God, maybe it's me. So
anyway. Oh, okay. Awesome. I'm excited. Everybody hears everybody. It was my fault, guys. I had my volume down. I had been working on my laptop. I just finished going to the Investor Fuel Mastermind. I was invited to go by Benson Juarez. He is the owner of Privy. So we might have him on the podcast in a couple of months, but it was really cool. Got to meet a lot of really cool investors doing big things. A lot of them in the wholesale and like fixing and flipping space, a lot of fix and flippers. So I think, people are super optimistic about 2024 and getting back into fixing and flipping, includes myself. We just listed a property after it was marketed for only 3 days. It was on market for 3 days and boom, full asking offer. All they requested was like $5,000 in concessions. We're like, okay. And we actually put it on market for $10,000 more than we originally had planned. So we're winning by $5,000 in my mind. So how about you, Karolyn? How are things looking up in Texas?
Texas is interesting. Cash flow isn't quite there in the single family space. It's a little harder.
Yeah.
Long-term rents aren't promising, right? So we need to do midterm rentals. We need to do pad splits or Airbnbs or things like that. So we need to underwrite a lot differently here in Texas. But those are buyers, investors that are looking for depreciation and everything. That's not exactly a deterrent, So, we're pivoting. We're doing little different things here and there just to make sure we're still gaining the traction and momentum that we need for this year. And yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Cool. So obviously we have you here because we get a lot of questions around multifamily. I actually have, and by the way, we got Elena in the crowd. I'm so excited to see that she's in the crowd. Neil Weatherhead, welcome. He's the first to comment. I appreciate that. And then Rob, so excited to see you guys in the chat. Please remember, share this podcast if you can, and let's get a lot of your questions about multifamily. So Karolyn, walk us through a little bit like how you got started in multifamily, or like if you believe there's like a good origin story behind how you got started. I would love to hear that too.
Oh man, I feel like it goes way back. Like there's been seeds planted from when we first joined SubTo in 2021. I remember I would be like lurking in the multifamily, like the very, very beginning multifamily Zooms that Pace would do, like just learning about underwriting and like how to structure deals. And I just had this inkling in my head of like, okay, I feel like this is something that we need to do. I don't know when, I don't know how. We're super beginners. So I don't even know, multifamily, as I'm sure most of us know, is like a completely different animal to deal with. So we're like, okay, focus on single family. Fast forward into 2022, I saw Bina at Clever Summit. I think like 99% of our SubTo community was there.
Yeah, and I was there.
Yeah. Well, we were there. And seeing Bina on stage really like made an impact in my mind of just seeing a woman of color, a woman that has so many accomplishments and accolades and achievements and like of that status on a stage in a room like that, and speaking about multifamily. So it just like reignited this thing in my brain. And I'm usually the one that just kind of like plants seeds with Myron, and he goes and executes them, or like he'll go do the thing, and I'm like spurring the idea. So I think I reignited that for us on that side of things. And we started learning with a group of people, what does underwriting look like? How do we find a deal? How do we source it? And, we go through all the, garbage of what a deal is. Similar to single family, you want to learn how to comp and figure out is this a deal or not. So it was a lot of learning the ropes in that respect, and just what I think we did differently, or what helped us, I should say, is we were very vocal and present online with, excuse me, we were just present online with doing Zooms, going on podcasts, talking about it, just circulating like what we're doing in our journey. And it just really helped, I think, propel a lot of momentum under us, as well as other people. Like I felt like a lot of people started getting on that bandwagon, so to speak, of just learning what multifamily is, because I think that's really where the majority of us kind of want to land. We want to be in we want that passive income, so gain traction with that. And then in the middle of 2022, we got our first 30 unit under contract. And it was like the day before the first mastermind we went to with Pace.
Yeah.
Like the night before. And we had just locked it up. Myron locked it up on seller finance, great terms. And then we were like, hey, Pace, we just locked up with a 30 unit and these are the terms. He's like, great, I'll partner with you. And we're like, what? So it was just kind of like this divine timing type of thing. I felt like, I think it was a little bit of luck and a lot of action taking. And that just spurred it even more. So then we had the 30 unit, and then we got the 40 unit, and then so on. So
wow. So how many units are you up now?
So right now, well, collectively, I also did a fund of funds with Vina, as you know, yes. And so that puts like our gross asset value over like 140 million, and over 500 doors collectively being a part of that and partnered on. So it's wild to think of this terms of scale of what multifamily can do for you,
Yeah. In such a short amount of time too.
Exactly.
I mean, relative, right? So
Yeah.
It's because I've only been focused on single family, this past week was my 3rd year in SubTo.
Congrats.
Thank you. But since I literally started buying assets and keeping them, this past December has really been 2 years. So in 2 years, I've bought 11 properties and kept them. And, sometimes I second guess myself a little to be like, should I be focusing on multifamily? And I'm sure the visionaries out there listening to this have those same sort of hesitations. What is your recommendation or your advice for somebody who's like, should I just singularly focus on one or the other? What are your thoughts?
That's a great question. And it's a question I get a lot. And I always have to say, like, this is very dependent on your individual situation. Because for Myron and I, let's say for us, we don't have W-2s. We don't have stable income. We don't have that flow of money coming in. We need to pay for our bills and our, like, all the things, right? So there was a moment in time when we started this multifamily, and we got to a place where, like, okay, we have momentum, but we still need to back it up with active money coming into our bank account, right? Not only to pay our bills and support our living expenses, but we also want cash flow and money to put back into the multifamily deals that are incoming, like for the future. So I say that that's our individual situation. We have to flex between active and passive. We're working the majority on active to feed into our passive. So I think it's very in tandem for us. However, there are people in situations that they don't have a lot of time to spend sourcing deals or being a part of the nitty grittiness of cultivating multifamily lead generate, all the things, but they have money to deploy. So I think there's a distinct difference, and you really need to be intentional and honest with yourself of where am I at? Because it's not going anywhere, right? Like multifamily is going to be here to stay. And like, it's not a now or never thing. It's a slow process. So I think everyone just needs to be honest and say, okay, if I have the time and I want to put in the work and I want to build a team or whatever it is, whatever avatar you fit into, then go do it. But just know if you need active income, you also need to be intentionally doing that for yourself too. Otherwise, multifamily doesn't pay till a few years down the line. So you have to just be aware of that and be really honest about it. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And somebody like me, I was what you call it, when I was focusing on single family homes, I was like, wait, if I look at what I'm supposed to be making with these properties, like I can't quit my job. Like I mean, if I want to look at my portfolio, it's like having a small multifamily that is not going to put the food on the table. It's not going to pay the bills. And it's one big reason why we flip houses, and I still have a W-2 is because that it's the what do they say? Like it's the delayed gratification where it's like, I have read stories where people are like, oh, I'm all in, I'm quitting my job. And maybe they haven't built up all their skill sets. It like stresses me out to read those stories because I'm like, oh my gosh, are you ready? Do you have the skill sets? But that's my brain. Not to say that's not their brain, but that's my brain. But one of the things that we did talk about last week in the podcast, I was like, guys, I have 11 properties that will not pay for my bills. You know when it'll pay for my bills? In 5 years.
Yep.
In 5 years, when I can restructure the debt, take out cash, and then really live off the rents and some of the restructured debt. That's really when I'll be able to leverage those. So I'm cool with just a little bit here and there, grabbing as many as I can at a time. But the reality is if you find yourself in that position, you really need to think about what is going to put food on the table. So, and I love that you guys also got to that point, right? Like you figured out that just doing it one way because of the way that you guys are made up in your family, right? The two folks, no W-2s, no plan B. You have to make sure you can make it work, and everyone's different. So I love this.
Totally.
And then how do you and Myron kind of stay on the same page around that too? Then like you guys have very clear goals, like here's what we're shooting for every month. And like, I'm just curious about that.
So that is an evolving work in progress for us too, of like just staying on the same page and staying in line because we think very differently and we have very different perspectives, but ultimately the same goal. Like we ultimately, we want to be involved in multifamily. We want a boutique hotel. We want to generate 3 million in revenue in our wholesale team. And the wholesale team was created last year out of like pure necessity. Not that we ever wanted to per se, but it's kind of become this like labor of love, working with these amazing people and getting to build them up and doing deals. And it becomes more involved versus just about the deals, right? So we stay on the same page as far as like translating, okay, what's going on our active income side and how can we slowly feed that into our passive side, or what are the things I'm typically more focused and like hands-on with the multifamily side of things and being involved in projects. And we just launched like an REI board with a few team members, myself and a few others. And so I'm involved in projects like that will keep me embedded in like leveraging and everything inside multifamily, while he's more in the lane of I'm working the team, the wholesale business. I'm a part of it too, just at a different level and overseeing things.
Mm-hmm.
But we move in different parts, but for the same path. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you just happened to mention this REI board. So can we talk a little bit more about it?
Yeah, it's really exciting.
I know. I saw my Instagram. I was like, whoa, there's some powerful women coming across this wheel right now. How do I get involved? Like, what is happening? Yeah.
So it was created. So it's myself alongside 4 other amazing ladies, Vina, her sister Priya, Elizabeth Schaefer, and Christy Schnurl, and myself. And we established the REI board. And that is essentially an advisory board for those that are in multifamily. Maybe they want to partner with Vina, but that doesn't fit her buy box, right? So she's very, very specific on what she wants to do deal-wise, and she does it really well. So we created a team essentially. So we're advising people starting, or maybe not starting, in their beginning path of multifamily that need leveraging of credibility, of portfolio, of experience, track record, all the things. And we're here to advise based on our experience and expertise and our own individual strengths. And we partner with them and get some deals across the finish line and like propel their trajectory forward a little bit faster.
Got it. So maybe to recap a little. So it's a team of badass women who know their shit, and other people can reach out to you, especially if they lack some of that experience and need to leverage it in order to get a deal done. Because maybe it's a really great deal, but the unit count doesn't really meet Vina's requirement. And so it doesn't require the kind of operations that her team would oversee, but it's still a great deal. And so it makes sense for a different kind of buyer, or maybe even you're like, hey, I'll take this down with you. I have an operations team. So I love it. And so then how do they get a hold of REI board? Do you have your own Instagram?
Yeah. So we just started our own Instagram. There's very minimal on there right now, more to come. It's at the REI board. And this is I posted it, but I'm not sure if it allows me to. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you guys. Yeah. So that will there will be a link to our website there. It's the reiboard.com. It shares more in depth about what we provide as advisors and how to partner with us. We have like a discovery form on there just to get connected with you and see like where we align and if it's a fit, and then we can move forward from there. So yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for it.
Well, awesome. Okay. So let's take it back a little. Like, obviously, right. I'm over here. I'm like, I want to do business with these beautiful women. Like, how can I get going? So if I do have a lot of relationships with certain brokers, people who I've worked with in the past. I've been in real estate for some time. So I can start getting louder about wanting multifamily. So let's say I have a lead. What is a good lead to you? Like something that here's the components of a good lead so that then you can take it to the next level. Like, what are your minimum requirements? Let's call it.
So again, I think this is very specific to each individual of what their buy box is. But let's just say you're coming to us as advisors, or you're just looking for a deal. You're just looking for something that fits within your buy box. So yes, it needs to fit those minimum standards of what you see fit for acquisition. And your broker hopefully is transparent, honest, and has a great relationship with you enough to be sharing updated financials, like your trailing 12, like what has this been producing over the past 12 months, the T12. There's a lot of terminology involved in multifamily. And then you're going to be looking at your rent rolls to see, are there big bad spots in this rent roll? Like, are there vacancies? What does that look like? Is it stabilized? Has it been sitting for a year and we're going to have to start from scratch? Like all of these things. So there's going to need to have some preliminary solid underwriting done to make sure it checks off a box. And then it's more deep diving after that of just going through the details and the story of what these financials are telling us, right? So we're honestly looking for the no, right? Kind of similar to single family. We want to go for the no of does this make sense for us, or is there an opportunity? Is it just BS, right? So I want those things to be preliminary taken care of before, you say, okay, I called a broker and they sent me this deal and it's in my email. Like that's not a lead. That's just an email, right? Like we want you to be doing a level of due diligence, or at least being resourceful to find out, go to Bo on underwrite, all the things. There's so many resources available for us to get these things checked off one more step. So
right.
Yeah.
So to recap what Karolyn mentioned, so just because you get an email from a broker that says, hey, this is for sale, doesn't mean you have a lead, especially when it's such publicly available information. What you want is one layer down, is what I'll call it, where you probably have established a relationship. And so because of that trust, they're now giving you some more information, like updated financials, like Karolyn mentioned, the T12, which stands for the trailing 12, trailing the last 12 months of trailing information. Rent rolls. So are people paying? Are they not paying? How are they paying? How long has a unit been vacant? Is it state like, what does that look like? What is their vacancy rate? Another thing that I learned when we've had these sessions in the SubTo community with folks like Bo, for example, or even when I watched some other YouTube stuff, is like, look at the actual physicality of the building and see if some things don't match up. So let's say there's grass everywhere, bushes and trees everywhere, but you're not seeing any landscaping expenses. And you're like, well, that's weird. Or their water isn't like, supposedly all their tenants pay the water, but you don't see a water bill when clearly grass is growing. But maybe it's like Texas where you guys get so much water, you don't have to water your grass. Because I don't think I water my grass at my property, but that stuff still grows. I have a property in Houston. But those are the types of things you kind of become a little detective and kind of marry up. What is the physicality of that property? What kind of amenities they might be downplaying and not thinking about, right? Maybe they have a pool, maybe they have all these other things that actually can make it more attractive, but they've done a really crappy job about marketing their units, that sort of thing. So you have to become a detective and get sort of that second layer of information that isn't necessarily publicly available with like the MLS stuff or the stuff that's like on Zillow or LoopNet, right? What are some of the
Correct. Yeah. They always say that's where all the multifamily deals go to die. Sure, I totally agree, but there's some gems in there.
Yeah. Or where all the seller finance deals are birthed.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Just saying. Cool. I think I saw a couple of questions. And guys, you have a multifamily expert with us here. So please make sure to put your questions in the chat so that she can answer them. So I'm going to scroll through because I think I saw a question. So Brenda asked, have you seller financed most or all of your multifamily deals?
All of them.
Oh, really?
Yes. Aside from the Arcadia, which was assumption of debt, our personal portfolio was all seller finance. Yes.
Wow. So you never had to go take out a loan?
Nope.
What was that process with the seller? They never said like, "Hey, let me see if you're like if you've had any bankruptcies or like what's your background?" Nothing?
No, I think the 40 unit, they wanted a personal guarantee,
Mhm.
and we did that. But everything has been checked out. Nothing has had to go to the bank or check credit or anything like that. Nope.
Wow. Wow,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah, I just bought my first property seller finance and it was like smooth like butter. It was super easy to get done. It's crazy when the banks aren't involved, right?
It's amazing what you can do.
Yeah, for sure. We have Rosie. I know this is Rosie. She's my media manager. She's amazing. She said, "What about the first time things didn't go as planned? What did you do and how did you pivot?"
Ooh. The first, like, in regards to multifamily or just in general, I think I'll answer it in regards to multifamily.
Let's do that.
Uh, I think when we first started, we were going through a lot of like Facebook wholesale multifamily deals that uh, really just didn't make sense. But we were going through the very beginning stages of learning what exactly we're looking for and how we want to do business. So we would get these deals sent to us and it would be essentially daisy chained and they would pretend to have the deal. And it was just like, there's 3% fees, buyer's fees on top of the deal. And it was just like, wait, like we would underwrite it and we're like, this just doesn't make sense. And we had to do it a few times to really understand, like, this is not how this operates. Like, this makes no sense to do it this way. So,
Mhm.
kind of in the realm of your question, but uh, I'd say just going through those kind of trashy first leads and figuring out this isn't how we want to do it. And we had to pivot into more of the broker outreach of
Yeah.
like going direct to the broker or even direct to sell, starting doing some skip tracing or whatever and figuring out how to talk more uh, directly to the seller or the professional broker involved, right?
Yeah. So when I think about maybe pivoting, I'll give you an example of where I had to pivot. I was
Okay.
not expecting an $11,000 expense. And so thankfully, I took care of my credit and was able to go and get my HVAC replaced, both units on my property in Houston with my good credit, zero interest for the first year. And so in like month 7 or 8, I paid them off with all the cash flow the property was making. But it sucked to have to be put in that position. So
Yeah.
someone, I always recommend to people, I don't care if you listen to all the gurus that tell you, don't use your credit, you don't even have to, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't mean don't go take care of your credit. You should take care of your credit. You never know when you might need to leverage it, especially if you're doing any like business credit building. So have you come across a scenario like that where you're like, pooped your pants, that you're like, oh my God, there's this huge expense. I mean, for me, the scale of multifamily also comes with the scale of a problem that could come around. Like, have you come across anything like that yet?
So I would say, luckily for our 30 unit, we are grateful enough to be partnered with Pace, who has a lot of these things already under his belt. Like he has the experience in the capital and everything. So
Hmm.
we are grateful to be in an education perspective alongside him with that. But just being at the property and seeing all the hiccups, because it's an older asset, we were expecting like $300,000 in renovations, and it turns out it's like over 700, 800,000. Like the pipes are not up to date, and just all of these things. So there's a lot of like what you were saying earlier, like the physicality of the building. Like, yes, it was on seller finance, and yes, we got great terms, but that doesn't mean you're not going to uncover a cute little problem once you're starting to renovate or you're in your value add phase. And luckily we like were able to renovate a certain building that we could do short term in, and so
Mm,
that really helped us boost up revenue and like generate some cash flow while we're like figuring out this cute situation on the other side here. So there's always little things like that, but luckily that wasn't a major burden on our part, but it's definitely a great learning lesson.
So what I heard you say is more than what, like 150% budget overrun. But what saved you is partnering up with experienced people who were able to mitigate that for you. So maybe a little bit to your question, Rosie, that you had is if you don't have the experience, this is not something you can necessarily pretend your way out of. So Karolyn and Myron, one of probably the best decision they made with that property is to partner up with somebody like Pace who could work through that with the capital that he has backing him up. And that's important too. It's important to have those kinds of partners that can pivot alongside with you for sure. And I love how you guys creatively thought through this by doing short-term rental and be able to get that kind of cash flow that you wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. So that's great. That's still problem solving through an unexpected expense. And again, when you're talking about multifamily, that expense scales along with your buildings. And so that's something to think about, like how old is your building? And a lot of the stuff is translatable from single family homes. Like for me, any property that's older than the 1980s, we're doing a sewer scope. We do a sewer scope because we want to know how those pipes are looking, especially since so much cast iron was used here. It's not, do you need to replace this to when are you going to replace it? So I can imagine for multifamily similar, right? Or any asbestos that might be in the building as a result of it being older and some degradation of those types of products. So you might have it in the ceiling, you might have it on the types of tiles you have. So it's important to walk these properties and kind of get some assessment, right?
Yeah, definitely. And like we knew what we were getting into from the interior walkthroughs of like, okay, we know this definitely needs a gut and a renovation and it's a phase by phase process. But once you start digging up the floors and the walls and the things and you're like, okay, we got a little bit more of an issue here that you don't necessarily see or expect right from your initial walkthroughs and due diligence.
Yeah, for sure. Very cool. So now you have 3 units that are 3 properties that are multi-unit. Is that how your portfolio is put together?
Yes. Okay. So we have a 30 unit and 40 unit, and I'm partnered on the 400 plus unit in Arizona. And then we have a handful of single families.
Fantastic. Diversified portfolio. That's always good to hear. Yeah. What has been one of your bigger challenges on the multifamily, or is the role that you play passive enough where that's not necessarily something that you carry as far as like stressing out about a property? Like my single family properties, I'm like, okay, did I pay all the mortgages? Like, let's go over my spreadsheet. Did they all get done?
I still have those worries too, because I pay the mortgages as well. But in multifamily, after we acquired the 30 unit and the 40 unit, we were like very hands-on in the GP and everything. And I made tons and tons and tons of broker calls and relationships and deals and just all the things that come with being a GP. And for me, like that lends to my visionary mind and skill set, but I knew there was a greater way or an even better way to scale in multifamily for me, let's say. And that was doing the fund of funds with Fina of, okay, I'm going to leverage her credibility, her track record, her well understanding of what she's doing with these assets and value add and all the things. And I can use my skill set of relationship building and talking to people and being on, all the things, branding, and go raise capital and be in a fund of funds. And it was like very exciting, nerve-wracking uncomfortable, all the things. And I think like that was probably my biggest challenge is overcoming that fear of doing something you've never done before, right? And at that magnitude, because we're not playing around with 30 units like this is a big deal to me. And raising capital is not easy either. Like it comes with a lot of relationship building skills and getting to know people and fostering, nurturing relationships. And it's a lot of blanket yeses, but a lot of no, like that turn into no's, right? So it's more of I can relate it to single family when you're on the phone and you're just getting no's, 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 no's all the time. And you almost want to hear that. Like you'd rather hear a fast no than a slow yes. And initially for me, that was like a mindset thing to overcome. And I would also add that I think a lot of people here have even experienced this as well. Let me know. But like when you're raising capital, you kind of have this initial fear of like, oh, I don't want to ask people for money. Like, like they're going to think I'm just asking for money and, all these things. But actually, no, I'm presenting you an opportunity to make money with your money. Like, how you have a problem because you need to deploy capital because you have taxes coming due, and how can we create efficiencies for your money while you don't have to do any of the work, right? So it's like a mindset shift and toughening up my skin and just learning the ropes.
And realize, and I have to believe that the mind issue that could come from this is when you're hearing those no's, not taking it personal. They're not saying no to Karolyn, they're saying no to the opportunity presented. And if you don't have thick skin and if you can't think with a healthy mindset, that can really eat at you, I suppose, right? I mean, I've experienced at a much smaller scale, when you're raising capital for your fixes and your fix and flips, like we have 3 more in the pipeline and I have to go raise capital for those. And it's like, okay, if they say no, I'm pretty sure they still like me, you kind of have to prepare for that. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's just what you said. It's not taking it personally. Although you might feel like that self-doubt creeping in at times, I think in any capacity as an entrepreneur, right? But it feels a little bit heavier when it's like money, financial involvement, right?
Yeah.
But it might be a no now, it might be a yes later, it might be a maybe, it might be it's not the right timing, or it's not the right fit for what they want to do financially and their goals. So to each their own. I'm just happy to be able to present the opportunity, and I get to flex my muscles and learn more, connect more. And then it's more and more like it just brings more people in anyway. So
very good. Yeah. All right, guys. So I know we've hit sort of the halfway mark a little bit ago. So let's just do a little bit of recap of what Karolyn mentioned. One of the things I think you said, and I don't want to make assumptions that the audience knows, is a fund to fund. So I had not heard of it until a mastermind about a year ago. And I was like, oh my gosh, I could probably do something like that. And then I didn't do it. You did it. And so I'm so proud of you, like, for stepping into your into something that you weren't comfortable with and then actually getting it done. That's so amazing. I'm proud of you, proud to call you a friend of mine, because like that had to have been tough. But a fund to fund, in my layman's term, is somebody with the gravity that is Vina. She's moving the moon with her, with her abilities. Has a lot to raise, and then she's got these amazing other influencers who are amazing human beings, great operators, and great brand carriers, if you will, like Karolyn, who are like, hey, I can help you raise that money. But if I'm going to help you raise that money that goes towards that big fund, I need to be connected for that work. Right. And so it's the big fund and these little funds fund it, fund the funds. So
Exactly.
just and hopefully that clarifies for anybody who's in the audience. So we have David asking, what is the best icebreaker question or statement to starting the discussion on seller financing?
I think it depends if you're talking directly to the seller or directly to the broker. If you're talking directly to the seller, like, so for example, we spoke with the seller on the 30 unit, and it was a very candid conversation of, you know, he was just expressing his worries, let's say, or he didn't want to pay taxes. And all he wanted to do was create money for his grandchildren. He wanted to put money in a trust. And it's really about, I don't know if it's necessarily an icebreaker question, but it's nurturing the conversation enough to where you understand what exactly are they needing to fulfill aside from just getting out of this asset that they've had for so long, right? So in this case, it's understanding the bunnies, as we say, of, okay, he doesn't want to pay taxes, or he wants to defer them, and he wants to create generational wealth for his grandchildren. He wants to put in a trust fund. And he literally said to us, all I want to do is seller finance this. And so it was like, or seller finance my portfolio. And so we're like, wait, okay, hold on. Let's just do this here, right? So it's more of just understanding how you can meet their needs. If you understand and you know that this asset has been managed by them for years and years and years, and they are just at the end of it, so to speak, and they want to get out of it, then that's a little bit easier of like, you know, how did you purchase this asset? Like, take me back into your story of how you started.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they purchased it on seller financing, and it's such a trend, like it's such a easily flowing conversation. Like, that's happened on the phone before.
Yeah.
So I think it's really tuning into who your seller is, or as best as you can with the broker, and learning what their story is and how you can fit their needs.
Very good. And David, my suggestion is very similar. It really depends on what you know about how long that property's been marketed. So let's say you know the property's been marketed for like a year, which is not uncommon with multifamily because it's a big commercial space. Having them live in a listing for a long time is not uncommon. So I would just start asking questions. I know Caroline's talked about the book Asking Better Questions or something like that by, darn it, I forget. If anybody remembers, go ahead and put it in the chat. But it's really that. Ask questions and then be able look for your opportunity to pivot to seller finance, especially if any part of the conversation is, yeah, I really want this price point, right? Because maybe they're really stuck on a number, but people haven't been able to offer that to me, right? And then that's where you could come in and say, well, I would love to give you your number. Could I pay that number to you over time? That's how I say seller financing without actually saying seller financing. Because those can feel a little bit fancy, but paying over time, you know, even the poor of us who used to do layaway. I mean, it's just layaway for it's layaway for assets, for crying out loud.
Exactly.
Anywho, so there you go. Anthony, who is one of the people who come to our Power Hour meetups, he's saying he's looking to buy his first multifamily, where he plans to live in it with his two daughters and their kids. How should he go about maybe trying to find an opportunity like that?
So, I mean, you can start really, I should say bare boat. Like, if you want to go free, you can go on Zillow. You can look at fourplexes or triplex that's been listed. Those are fair. I don't know what market you're in, Anthony, or he's in Arizona?
He's in Phoenix.
Okay. So going on the MLS, even just or on the market and finding triplexes that have been sitting there for a while. You might find something that has a potential to SubTo the debt, right? Or it could even be a seller finance opportunity. So I think there's really I think we're going to see smaller multifamily really ramp up this year, as far even like duplexes all the way up to 130 units. I say smaller end, but this is really easy to find, I would say, and to hunt down. And then you could just reach out to the agent, or if you want to dig a little bit deeper and see like who is it direct to seller, like if is it an expired listing, that type of thing. And just strike up a conversation. It's if it's something that's listed and it's been listed for a while, that's your direct agent conversation right there. How can you provide value to them, and go from there. And it's a triplex is not something you're going to need to do massive deep underwriting on either. I believe up to fiveplex, is comparable to like how you would comp a single family fourplex.
Yeah.
I can never remember if it's a fourplex or fiveplex.
Yeah.
So I mean, but you're going to be living in it too, so there's a difference there. But I wouldn't be so stressed and overwhelmed of thinking, oh my God, I need the rent rolls, I need all the things, because it's going to be very easily visible and you already know what you want to do with it, especially if you're going to be living in it.
Yeah. And some of the advice I told Anthony is it's not much different than going after single family homes, especially when you're talking about maybe 4 to 8 unit, which I think is something that he brought up to me before. It's just a matter of then, narrowing your focus. So that's where, if those are your desires, that's where you're going to narrow your focus. And then making sure that you have the components to that. Okay. Once you start talking about more than 4 units, you're talking about a commercial property. And some commercial properties, depending on unit sizes, require specific operations, not just by like all different ordinances. So you have to know like where you're running your multifamily. So the city might have certain ordinances for commercial, like I don't remember what the unit count is, but I was talking to somebody and they're like, oh, well, at that unit count, I think it was 75 units. They're like, oh, then you're going to have somebody on staff every day, like a leasing agent on staff. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. Like there's like a unit count that you then have to have personnel there. So then you have to think about, how do you incorporate paying for this salary, or paying for a property management company that's going to have to pay for this salary, so they have somebody at the property. And this isn't something that you just like, drink from a fire hose. You bring it to other experts and they help in fill in that knowledge gap. So Anthony, for you, once you find that motivated seller for that unit count you're looking for, now you have to then take it to the next step, bring it to an expert that can help you get to the point where you might be able to put it under contract. If you can raise the money and buy it yourself while being able to, compensate that person who's helping you through it, then maybe you get to keep it, right? Maybe you can't, and you have to partner up with somebody and own equity. These are all things that happen when you're going after assets, whether that's single family or multifamily, at the end of the day. So thank you for your question, Anthony. And we have Christina Vega asking, how long have you been doing multifamily?
I began multifamily in the spring of 2022.
Nice.
So coming up on 2 years.
Right. Exactly.
Feels weird to say that.
And so hopefully you all take that as inspiration, that your life can really change in less than 2 years. What is that saying, that you can underestimate how much you can do in a year and overestimate how much you can do in 5, or something like that?
Yeah.
I don't know why I try to say these things when I'm not good at them. I'm not.
You're great. You're great. It conveys the message for sure.
All right. Thank you, Nayeli. I see that. The Sandler's Way. I think that's what the book is. I know that there's the there's another book of like, I read this book, How to Teach a Kid How to Ride a Bike at a Seminar, or something like that. Sandler has that, but he also has the How to Ask Better Questions book, which is, I think, the better book. But Anywho,
Yeah.
Andrew wants to know, when are we going to throw a huge SubTo Texas meetup? Don and I have been trying to get this done this year. Thoughts?
Oh my gosh. We are having a mega Texas meetup next month. DFW, I should say. We're partial to Dallas. I'm sorry. Pace is coming in on the 21st because he's
Of
speaking out of
February?
Spire. Huh?
Of February?
Yeah, he's flying in on his birthday, which is
Nice.
wild. I'm like, you need to be at home on your birthday. But he's going to be speaking at Aspire on the 22nd. So we're going to be throwing a big freaking meetup in like
On
just under a
21st.
month.
Bro, maybe I'll go. I called you bro because, you know, we all get called bro.
Of course.
I want to go. I haven't been to Texas in a long time. And if my property does not get rented out by next month, maybe I should go to Houston and go check on it. So,
Let's go.
yeah, let's go. Yeah, I'll go to Texas next month. Why not?
Sweet.
I mean,
Yeah.
are you ready, Drew? Is that the answer you actually wanted to hear? Here's what I suspect. Drew's going to be like, let's have a big Texas meetup in Houston. Is really what he wanted to say. I wonder how partial to Dallas he really is. So
We can go back and forth. We can do one here, one there. Like we should do one like every, quarter, every 6 months or something. Do one big in Houston and then in Dallas.
And Rob said his city is trying to add more zones when they won't give a rental certificate. Interesting. So I think he's talking back about the regulations every city has, every county has. Yeah, you have to know where you're operating. What is maybe the a couple of top questions you might have that we may have not asked during the podcast that you feel like you have a burning desire to be able to give to the folks who are here with us?
Ooh, this is a good question. I think we were asking a few of them of like, where should I start in multifamily? Should I do that first, or should I go just do single family? As far as doing that, you need to learn about your avatar. You need to understand like where your heart is, and obviously your individual situation. And then for me, I would say me understanding where I needed to go as far as pivoting to doing a fund of funds. I wouldn't say it's necessarily it's a permanent thing that I have to do all the time, but it was a muscle and skill set that I needed to flex and build in order to understand the gravity of raising capital. And that's what I would say is lending and learning a skill set on raising capital is really it. You don't have to do it through a fund of fund. It's just an option to use leverage and credibility and scale at the same time and add experience to your resume, let's say, your portfolio, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think learning how to raise capital is one of the most important aspects, if not the most important aspect of multifamily. And if you are thinking about getting into the nitty-gritty of being in multifamily or getting on a team or understanding the structure of deals, you are going to need to understand how to be building those relationships, how to be constantly networking, putting yourself out there. It's wild how connected branding is to everything. It's wild, like what your name and what you brand, how you show up on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram, whatever, will do for your momentum in so many different facets of your journey as an entrepreneur or a multifamily investor, whatever that is.
Yeah.
I've gotten so many leads or people reaching out just through Instagram, just because they see me being visible, just because they see me talking about multifamily, or it just triggers interest, right? So I think that's one of the core components if you're going into raising capital, and you need to understand, how do I leverage myself and my name in a unique, honest, transparent, aligned way to people that are going to attract the people that I want to do business with.
Yep.
And not everybody is a yes, right? And you need to be, I think we can all be a little bit hungry in the beginning, no matter if it's single family or multifamily, whatever you're doing, you just kind of, want to make everything work and shift things around, like, oh yeah, we can do that, we can do this. But you're also creating a disservice for yourself, because you're not being honest and you're not being aligned with who you actually truly want to do business with. And it may end up biting you in the butt later on. So I think
100%.
it's very important to know that about yourself, and know when you go into it, you have value to provide, and you want to attract those relationships to you by putting yourself out there in an organic, honest, transparent way, right? And that capital is going to come. Like, that's obviously not the only way to raise capital, but I think it's in today's society and moving forward, like the landscape of it is so, like, the gravity is there, right? Like, you need to be present. You need to be visible. And a lot of people will post online or in the Facebook group, or like, I need X amount of money, like in 2 days for a deal, and who's in, all these things. And I think that's a little bit of a rite of passage to get burned in that respect of, you're not doing what you need to do in order to attract people to you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like that extreme accountability. At the end of the day, it's all your fault. So if everything is your fault, what could you have been doing better? Like, and I've said this before on this podcast, and I'm going to have to really go get my shirt already. I want to have an ABC shirt with the little alligator symbol with the R, it really should read, always, instead of always be closing, always be raising capital. And
love it. Oh, I love it. I love it. Yes, totally.
Real quick, I missed this question from S. Horn. I'm sure that's not Scott Horn, but how do you skip trace multifamily?
Ooh, I've never done that. Like, that's not my realm, but I think Myron has always done it through like Skip Genie, where he'll look up the LLC lookup and go deep dive on it. But I think we've done like Skip Genie and Bear Skip or something like that. Don't count my words, but I think that's what he's used before. But yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, there you go. Try that bear, alligator, whatever. Skip trace.
Bear Skip. I think it's called Bear Skip, and Skip Genie, I think, is a really good one that we've used.
Yeah. And honestly, like, you have to get your investigative skills out sometimes. Here's something I was going to mention earlier. I went to this mastermind these last few days, and I could not believe how much I made an assumption that other people knew, so when we started this podcast, you said everybody wants to land in multifamily at the end, right? I was blown away about how many people were fix and flippers, like legitimately flipping like 50 to 250 properties a year. Okay. And they're cash heavy and don't own any rentals or have any strategy with multifamily. I was like, oh my God, you have such a fat tax bill every year. I was like, you're the thing that's, helping us build these roads and bridges. I guess that's not a bad thing, right? But I was really surprised by it. And so I think sometimes we make some assumptions that even the most sophisticated and seasoned and experienced folks know what they're doing and understand the tax opportunities they have, like a tax strategist. And more I get into this, I'm like, wow, people don't. They get singularly focused, which is what you're supposed to do. Get really good at that one thing, But then what happens is they forget to grow and think about a bigger picture. And so this is where the value like yourself, Karolyn, can bring to folks like that to say, hey, let us help you with that, right? Because it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep, right?
Yes.
So Karolyn can help people keep more of their money.
Keep more and make more of the money. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I know we're at the top of the hour. Thank you so much, Karolyn, for being here with us and for sharing your information about multifamily. Remember, go follow her on Instagram. And is that your Instagram handle?
It sure is. Yes.
So at Karolyn.Briley. She also is a part of the other Instagram at the REI board. So if you guys have any opportunities and you want to review it with them, let those hot mamas teach you how to underwrite your deals and see how you can partner up with them. And no, Drew, I don't run. I don't like running. He asked me if I'm going to be doing a marathon. I'm good. I have kids. I think that's all the marathoning I need. But
Oh, yeah, that's a marathon in itself. Yeah.
thank you so much, Karolyn. And is there anything else that we could do for you? Like what could the peeps do for Miss Karolyn
Oh my
Briley?
gosh. Thank you for having me. What can you do for me? Just take action, make mistakes. If you have a cool boutique hotel warm lead that you feel might be really cool, share it with me. Who knows? We might be able to do business together. Really just go the path, like do the thing, like implement. Hopefully, I dropped some nuggets for you to go and take action. And I think that's really the most impactful thing is go do something for yourself and learn and make mistakes.
Fantastic. Well, if you guys found value in this podcast, please like, share, and send out to all your friends who you think would enjoy this as well. We appreciate you all for being here with us. Hopefully, Caroline will make it back from Houston safely, I think tomorrow or Friday. And thank you so much, Karolyn, for spending this time with us. We really appreciate you sharing your own personal stories and really how quickly things can change once you put some action behind what you're saying. So thank you so much. And we will catch you guys next Wednesday, just like every week at 4 p.m. Arizona time, live on YouTube, or catch us on the replay everywhere there are podcasts. Have a good one.
Thank you.